Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh b'dvarei. Okay, good morning, good Erev Shabbos to everybody. So we jump back into our limud of Sefer Likutei Moharan, Torah Chof Gimmel b'siyata d'shmaya. Today's shir is generously sponsored by Zev Kleinly, the Nishmas' parents, Revka Barinnel Bas Simcha and Ya'akov and Yeshעיהו, as well as sponsored anonymously for the Nishmas Nathaniel ben Ruvain and Yehuda Leib ben Shmuel, as well as the Zechus for Chana Bas Simcha to find her zivug, bekarov mamish be'ezras Hashem, and the Zechus of our learning together, b'siyata d'shmaya. Okay, let's jump in. We are looking at Torah Chof Gimmel, which we began yesterday, speaking about two experiences of life, right? Anpin nihirin and anpin chashuchen, a bright face and chas v'shalom, a darkened face. And the Rebbe told us that a bright face is connected to the aspect of maso matan be'emunah, which we learned much more than just doing maso matan faithfully, honestly. It means that the whole context of a person's business pursuits are within the general framework of emunah, which is not the ordinary way, that it's understood. Maso matan be'emunah, right? That it's saturated, with emunah. It's ensconced within that general context. And that's ayin anpin here, and chas v'shalom the hepech is when money is turned into an idol, and when money is something that takes a person away from emunah, and money is something that brings a person into a rootedness in this world that's unfounded, right? Because it skews a person's priorities, and it causes a person to become overly concerned with this worldliness as opposed to remaining rooted in that realm of emunah and seeing their financial success or otherwise in that context. And that's going to bring a person chas v'shalom into ayin anpin chashuch. And that's what we had learned yesterday. So let's continue again from the very bottom of page Lamed Daled Amud Beis, the last two words, Aval elu b'nei adam shemasam umatanam be'emunah. These people whose maso matan is be'emunah, like we just described, hein dveikim ba'ara panim de kedusha. They're connected to the light of the face of kedusha, so to speak. Ki ein emunah b'lai emes. Now, why is that so? Because emunah needs to be with emes. Kamuva b'zayar, on a pasuk that contains the word tzedek and emunah, says the Zayar Kadosh, hainu tzedek hainu emunah. Tzedek and emunah are the same thing. Umasik sham, no. Emunah is kriyas kadas chaber ba emes. When emes is connected to emunah, then it's called. And then when emes is involved, then it's called emunah. Nimtza sheikar emunah al yidei emes. This is a source that we already had earlier on. We live in Torah Zion. That emes and emunah are bound up together. Whenever you have emunah, you have emes. Whenever you have emes, you're going to need to connect emunah to it. The emes who are apanu ki yadua. And emes is the ar hapanim. Emes is connected to light. This is something that we learned, if you remember in Torah Tes, that if a person is stuck in darkness, how do they get out? And we learned emes, right? Emes, authenticity, vulnerability, we spoke there, is going to enable a person to find the doorways that will lead out of the darkness that they're in. And because the pasuk connects HaKadosh Baruch Hu to light, Hashem oyri v'yishi, right? We're going to say, coming up, Abal Lino the Tova Elul, Hashem oyri v'yishi. Hashem is our light. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unequivocally, V'nasan lanu Torahs emes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Hashem Elokeichem emes. And that's the light. The emes who are upon him. And a person who's doing maso matan be'emunah, which emunah is a direct portal to the emes la'amita, that the emes la'amita is that we're in this world for a very short period of time, and that if a person puts their whole focus on this worldly pursuits, so chaval, right? That's not the real emes, because emes means, like we learned in the context of Torah Aleph, the chen amiti, as opposed to the sheker achein v'havalayafi. Emes is something that lasts, right? Meaning emes takes a look at the broadest possible framework, right? Aleph to mem to taf. It doesn't get stuck at the zayin or the ches or the tes. Emes is the whole way through, right? And so the emes is that this world is just temporary. We're not going to be afraid. If you can say one unequivocal thing about this world, there are many, many things that we can say that we're not sure about. One thing that is unequivocal is death. It's the most certain thing. Huh? And taxes, right? They say, okay, taxes and death are the two. Gewalt. Well done, right? This is it. Taxes and death are the only two things that are certain in this world, right? So the emes lamitai is, there's a broader picture. And when a person's maso matan is be'emunah, then memela it's with emes, and emes is ar. Emes is ar apanim kiyadua. And this is pshat in the pasuk that speaks about Yaakov Avinu coming to Shechem. Vayichan pnei ha'ir, and he graced the face of the city. So Chazal have two explanations of this. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Gimmel Amud Beis, Chad Amar Matbea Tiken Lehem. One Mada Amar says that what it means by Yichan, it means he sorted it like currency for them. He taught them how to use currency, which is a huge innovation, by the way, right? Because prior to currency, it was actual physical objects. People were bartering, right? And money, it was a huge, an incredibly ingenious, I don't know the history of money, but it's an incredibly ingenious invention, because money essentially uses a symbol, right, for every kind of good. And then instead of schlepping goods, you can exchange in currency, and all of a sudden it opens up a whole new market and a whole new ability to do business. So this is what he did. Chad Amar Matbea Tiken Lehem. So Yaakov Avinu is connected with coins in some way. The Chad Amar Merchatzais Tiken Lehem. The other one said no. He taught them how to have bathhouses. He taught them cleanliness. Says Rebbe Nachman, no issue. Hainu hachval pligi. It's the same thing. They're not arguing. Right? Taxes and death, it's the same thing, right? Hainu hachval pligi. It's the same thing. Ki Yaakov hu bechinas emes, because Yaakov is the aspect of emes. K'may shekasav, as the pasuk says in Micha, titen emes li Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu has the midah of emes. V'hu bechinas arapanim, and therefore Yaakov Avinu is the arapanim, is the inyan of the light of the face. So v'teked k'shava nestaken emunah. So the minute Yaakov Avinu comes to Shechem, which we're going to learn about very, very deeply in Torah Chav Zayin, and we should keep that in mind. When Yaakov Avinu comes to Shechem, we're going to learn what that means, but over here, just the city, he comes to Shechem, so all of a sudden, emunah is rectified, because Yaakov is emes, and if a person's connected to emes, they live with emunah, right? And their maso matan is going to be be'emunah. Memela v'zeh matbea tiken. So if you're talking about Yaakov Avinu, and you're talking about what Yaakov Avinu brought to a place, you have to speak about money, because that's the ultimate expression, perhaps, of where a person is vis-a-vis emunah. Their energy around money, right? Their responses, the way that they live with it, without it, right? Whatever the struggle is, how much are they able to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even there? Like we said yesterday for the Mesilas Yesharim, both mitzad Oisher and Ashiras, and mitzad Chas v'Shalom Aniyos. So Zemat Tiken, should Tiken taavas mamon. That's what it means. Not that he made coins for them. He rectified their taavas mamon, because Yaakov Avinu is emes, and emes is emunah. So that's maso matan be'emunah. Because should Tiken taavas mamon, once you rectify taavas mamon in a person, nistaken bekam avodas halila. Memela, you fix up avodah zarah, because there's no greater idol worship than money. So the other one said he fixed for them bathhouses. So what does bathhouses have to do with avodah zarah? Pashut k'mashu kasav. The pasuk says v'terid bas para lirchaytz. Bas para went down to the river Lirchaytz to wash. Say Chazal in the Gemara Megillah and Sotah. V'dar Shechinah Zechus Lirchaytz mikilule beisavia. She went to cleanse herself, to wash herself off from the idol worship. Is the same thing. Abraham Avinu telling the people coming in, the travelers, yukach namat mayim, wash your feet, right? From avodah zarah, Rashi says. So washing has to do with avodah zarah. Says the Rebbe, if taavas mamon is avodah zarah, so then chad amar v'chad amar v'loy pligi, right? The two manda amrim in the Gemara as to what it means that Yaakov, who's in the midah of emes, emunah, was tiking the ear, right? Whether it means that he rectified coins or that he rectified merchatzais. V'loy pligi, it's the same thing, because merchatzais is idol worship. Money is an idol, right? So he came and he tiken lehem matbea. He rectified their taavas mamon.
Just wondering, is money in this category of klipos noiga we spoke about? Because here it could either be a avodah zarah, but then you have a Yaakov Avinu Torah Aleph, emes Yaakov, who can show you, like, you can be mataken that taiva for
Sure.
Mamish for cats.
Of course.
You know?
Of course. I'm allowed to have money in my pocket, right? Hopefully. So yeah, vadai. Like most things in this world, you know, but at the same, so it could either be used for kedusha or it can be drag a person down into idol worship, into idolatry. So says the Rebbe, because like the Rebbe's chidushim are, like Reb Tzvi Cheshen once told me, we spoke about him last night a little bit. He said, you know, a lot of chidushim and lots of svarim. The Rebbe's chidushim are, they have style. Like, I can't explain it, because this would have already been a beautiful chiddush, right? You identify the connection between, but like it goes deeper. Like it's another layer. What's the other layer? Look at the pasuk that these two Manda Amrim were commenting on. Vayichan pnei ha'ir. So says the Rebbe, goes back to the panim de kedusha, right? Because so like it would have been enough, like for some mefarish to come along and say, well, beautiful, these two mandarim are saying the same thing, because if you identify money with idolatry and you say from the other Gemara that washing, it means washing from idolatry, and this is tikkun matbeah, so that's beautiful enough. But it goes, like, it's very deep. It's very deep. Like you go back to Torah Gimmel, you know, where the Rebbe is like darshaning the Rashbam's reading of the Gemara, and like it goes not just in the Gemara, but it goes into the way Rashbam. You remember, right? Talmud Ka'amalei, Rebbe Ka'amalei, that whole drasha. This is next level stuff. It's next level stuff. All right. So Vayichan Pnei Ha'ir Pnei Daika, says the Rebbe. Yeah. Panim. Shu panim de sitra achar. He fixed Vayichan Pnei Ha'ir, because prior to Yaakov Avinu coming along, they were in the bechina of Anpin Chashuchin, because they were in taavas mamon. Tikkun lahem atbeya, which is Hainu Tikkun lahem merchatzai. Same thing, right? He gets them out of the idol worship of taavas mamon. The Mela Vayichan Pnei Ha'ir. And if you want to take it one step deeper, because MS is Yaakov Avinu, that's what we're speaking about, that's the connection. Go back to Torah Aleph. What did we learn about Yaakov Avinu? Is the bechina of Seichel. Seichel de Kedusha is the bechina of Ki Ish Yisraeli Tzar Tamad L'Staka B'Seichel Sheyish B'Chal Davar, which means Limud Torah, right? Oisik B'Torah means to find the Torah in everything, like we said. What will that lead a person to? Chein ha'amiti. So beautiful. Vayichan is chein. Vayichan pnei ha'ir, chein ha'amiti. Yaakov Avinu, who is the bechina himself of MS, is Vayichan pnei ha'ir. What was the ear stuck in? Taavas mamon. Tikkun lahem atbeya, tikkun lahem marchatzais. He washed them from idol worship, and he fixed their face, because their face was ayin anpin chashuchin, we're up here. And now we have the bechina of ayin anpin nehirin. It's mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing. Right, Dayenu? You know, Rebbe Nachman has there's a sefer Alam L'Trufa. Just my father holds that Alam L'Trufa is the central Breslov sefer. It's the least learned. And my father says, he likes to say, the essence of Breslov Chasidus is in Alam L'Trufa. I think Likutei is pretty important also. But he says, if you want to see the way a Breslover lives, this is how how a Breslover learns and thinks, which is beautiful, and it's a madrega, even just to know this. But you want to see the Yadata Yomi Shivaisa Elavavecha, which was the Iker in Breslov, like we said yesterday. Reb Lipa, brought them close, not with fancy tires from Likutei, but with the way he said Slichas, right? That's what chap them. Look in Alam L'Trufa, which is Reb Nachman's letters. Most of the letters are to his son. We have it translated here, right? 3 volumes, I think. Eternally Yours. It's translated as Eternally Yours. Healing Leaves is like small little connections, like excerpts. I think. Yeah. Eternally Yours is like the full translation, and it's next level. It's next level. And there are letters over there. I used to, unfortunately, I had so little time. But Baruch Hashem, I used to have like a seder in it, and I went through quite a bit of it. And in many of the letters, he uses the word dayenu again and again, unlike each individual revelation. Like he says, if Rebbe Nachman had only come to tell the story of the lost princess, dayenu. If he had only come for this, dayenu. Like dayenu on every chiddush, dayenu on every word. If just this chiddush alone had survived from some Hasidic Rebbe, you would have said, "Oh my, where's the rest of his Torah? Who was this man?" And Ashreinu, that, can you imagine what a nace that this survived? That, seriously, how many Sfarim were lost? Reb Tzadok HaKaim Lublin wrote a whole parish on the whole Sefer HaZayar, gone. The Piasetzer Rebbe was writing a parish on the Zayar, gone. Reb Hillel Zeitlin was writing a parish on the whole Zayar, gone. Gone. Iberditchever Rav wrote on all of Shas, gone. There was one volume of on Ksubis that remained, and it was passed down. I believe it was in the Belzer Chassidas. There was a fire, gone. That one volume of his Chidushim in Nigla. Whatever Sfarim we have, if you think of it. So like, if a Sefer reached us, it's an unbelievable matana. And I appreciate you saying Dayenu. Like, we shouldn't take it for granted. We shouldn't take it for granted. Alachas kama v'kama v'kama v'kama. This Sefer, with all the obstacles and barriers that we discuss so often, and we're learning it. We're in. It's unfathomable. It is literally unfathomable. And to me, it immediately translates into cries, right? Like, immediately. So, got to find a way to give it to the next person. But it's here, and it's not going anywhere. Ashreinu dayenu. Okay, so nestakin taavas mamon, nestakin pegam avodas alilim. So that's why yichan pnei ir pnei daika. She panim desitra achra shehi matbeya haina taavas mamon. Ki kol avodas zaros techuvim b'mamon. Wow, that's a powerful line. Not only can money become an avodas zara, he says no. He says kol avodas zaros techuvim b'mamon. All kinds of avodas zara have a connection, are entrenched within money. Ubishvil zeh, okay, this is a little bit technical, but let's try it because I said it's very dense. Ubishvil zeh, and for this reason, mamon emoisi yosav is gematria kuf mem. Money, with its letters, with its numerical, the numerical value of mamon with the 4 letters, so adding 4 is gematria 140. Keneged kuf mem kalin shehashchinah tzavachas. This is keneged the 140 voices or cries that the Shechinah cries out, as the Gemara in Sanhedrin describes. Kalani miraishi, kalani mizrai. I'm hurting from my head. I'm hurting from my arm. And if you look at the Rosh Tevus of kalani miraishi, kalani mizrai, it's kuf mem. So that tells us that the Shechinah cries out 140 times. The kuf mem, Hashem says, Kalani miraishi, Kalani mizrai. And this is, where we're rectifying, of course, when we put on tefillin, shal yad and tefillin shal raish, right? Is rectifying the Kalani miraishi, right? Tefillin shal raish, Kalani mizrai, right? Which is the shal yad. It also has to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's response to Klal Yisrael forsaking the Torah in both thought and practice, right? Kalani miraishi, Kalani mizrai. But says the Rebbe, no, this is al elu anoiflim b'taavas mamon. This is a specific reference to those who fall into taavas mamon, sheim avodas alilim klulim avodas zara shel shivim umais, which is connected to the avodas alilim of all the 70 nations. So therefore, says the Rebbe, v'al kain heim kuf mem kalin. Therefore, like sort of Rebbe Nachman explains, that's why it's 140 sheim shtei pa'amim ayin, because it's 2 times 70. Because the Shechinah cries out twice. Kalani mirashi, kalani mizrai. Right? So meaning there's a doubling over. So if there's a doubling over that equals 140, so then what's the half? Meaning what's the original? Is 70. Why would the Shechinah be crying out 70 times 2? What's the 70? 70 is keneged, the 70 umas ha'olam. Shevachinas kailas kvulim anu shnei pa'amim ayin kalin. 2 times crying out 70 times. Why 70? Shetzavachas ha'shechinah ala noiflim taavas mamon. She'avodas zara klulim mikol avodas zara shel ayin umais. Because it has to do with the 70 nations of the world. Because this is the avodas alilim klape Klal Yisrael's emunah tahira, Derek Yisrael's Saba, like we've had for thousands and thousands of years, and guarded very, very zealously. This pure monotheism. We refuse to be swayed one way or another way. And so the avodas alilim, which is ayin, if doubled over, because it's not just that we're thinking in idol worship, but chas v'shalom, that we can have actualization of idol worship, so then memela, Kalani mirashi, Kalani mizrai, right? And that's 140, which is ayin twice. So the Gemara Pesachim says that mizayno isav shal adam is difficult kiflayim ki yoleda. It can be as difficult as giving, like doubly as difficult as giving birth. Don't tell women that, because they're not going to like that so much, and they'll probably say you men don't know what you're talking about, and they're probably right. But it says in the Gemara, at least in some metaphoric sense, it can be doubly as painful, at least again on some level, as giving birth. And says Rebbe Nachman, guess what? This Gemara in Pesachim is connected to the Gemara in Sanhedrin that we just learned. How? Because we already learned in Torah Chof Aleph, I believe, at the end. Ki hayoled es ramas ayin kolin kodem aleda. Because the Zohar Kadosh says that a woman in labor cries out 70 times, keneged, the words in the Mizmar of Yancha Hashem b'yom tzari sagav Hashem the Ya'akov. Right? I believe we learned that, yeah, at the end of Torah Chof Aleph. No, the end of Torah. You test then. Where was it? No. Okay, it's one of the Torahs that we learned together. So I have to do Chazara. Shmatza Kasenu, Tzrilach Chatashi. Yeah, Torah Chof Aleph, I believe. Okay, we have to find it. Anyway, Kitzer, the woman is crying out 70 times. Right? So says Rebbe Nachman, look at the Gemara Pesachim. Kashim is a noise of kiflayim kayaleda. She cries out 70 times, but kashim is a noise of shal adam. Not that making parnasa is difficult 2 times that, but gewalt, if a person gets dragged into the ayin anpin chashuchin of making parnasa, then it's kashim kiflayim kayaleda. Markesher to Yoleda is 70. 70 umasailam. 70 idol worship. Kiflayim ke'eleda kalani mirashi kalani mizrari kufmem. Right, 2 times 70 is the 140 times the Shechinah cries out.
In a practical sense, it can be considered that a woman cries out 70 times, and she goes from a place of difficulty to Yeshua. But a person that's in mutba, they're going into a place where they need to get out with 70 kilos.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Agreed. Right, meaning it's doubled because every step you take, you got to come out beautiful.
How deep can you go in the forest? You know.
Right. I mean, you have to always cheshbon however much time you go in. Beautiful.
Or
Excellent.
maybe yesh lo me'ah.
That's Messiah. True. Right.
But in the
Oh, you have
same
kesef,
sense,
lo yizba kesef. It's the
in
same thing.
sense, one has a
One is already 2. One is already 2.
2 is 1.
Give out. Well, that's what I said last night.
two.
But the holy drunk. Right? No, meaning because if you have 1, memela, it's already because it's a Messiah. So, yeah. Okay. Kashim says kiflaim kiyaleda. Kiyaledis ramas ayin kolin kodim aleda. Because the woman cries out 70 times. Vahacha yish kuf mem kolin. And over here the Shechinah cries out double that. 140 shem shnei pa'amim ayin, which is 2 times 70. Vezeu, and this is pshat in the mission of us. Let's just be conscious of this. Al tehi rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Al tehi rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Which there are different interpretations of what it means. That a person shouldn't be wicked to himself. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the Rav Bar Tanura writes on the side that it means don't do wicked things. And that's what it means. Al tehi rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Like, don't make yourself wicked. Right? So you're in charge of yourself. Don't make. But the Rambam learns the other way. The Pirush Mishnayos, the Rambam says, don't consider yourself wicked. It'll be very discouraging and it will prevent you from doing everything else. Okay. But the Rebbe takes a completely different approach. Says the Rebbe, you know what will happen if a person becomes a Rasha? What's it going to affect? Their panim. They'll go from a panim de kedusha to a panim de sitra acher, a panim of simcha, of panim seichakos chayim, to a panim of darkness and of anger, of roiges, of anxiety, of stress, of pressure, of not good. Says the Rebbe, al ti rasha b'fnei atzmacha. B'fnei, says the Rebbe. Zeo b'chinas panim de sitra acher. Haba machmas taavas mamon. She'ein mamon ba'akadosh baruch hu. When people don't really believe in Hashem, shehu hazan umefarnis, that we forget He's the one from whom all parnasa comes, and we do ishtadlus, maso matan, but we do the ishtadlus in the context of bitachon, which is maso matan be'emunah, in the context of faith. That if a person has that, then they're okay. then they have a panim de kedusha. Even if a person has a lot of difficulties in parnasa, like I said, Breslov Hasidim were they struggled terribly with parnasa, but you would never know because it didn't impact their yeshiva das one iota. They did what they could do. What wasn't working out was min hashamayim. Like what? As long as they're doing what they're supposed to do and enabling HaKadosh Baruch Hu's master plan to unfold through them, and they're not slacking off, and they're doing what they could do, this is God's world. What am I? What's anger going to help? I'm already doing everything I could do. What should I? Like what more? What more is expected? So then they accepted. This is the plan of Hashem, and they went with Ayin An P'Nehirin, and they did, and that was that. And that was that. And they really had emunah, like Rebbe Nachman said, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be mefarnis a person b'siba kala. Liya kesef, liya zav, Amar Hashem tzavakos. Right? Hashem says, all the money is mine anyway. Lo yisasa lechem, mamish, right? Right? Lahash lecha lili kaspa mizahava, mamish. Elo yeh kesef v'zav. That's what we're speaking about. B'diuk. So says the Rebbe, go back inside. B'fnei ze b'chinas panim de sitra achra haba machmas taavas mamon she'ein mamin b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu shehu hazan u'mefarnes. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the zan and the mefarnes. So b'hu chaysh, what does he think? It's my strength, and it's the power of my hands that created for me all of this chayil, all of this wealth. So says the Rebbe, Alti Rasha Bifnei. You know how not to impact negatively your face? Because Alti Rasha Bifnei Atzmacha. Don't have a face of Atzmacha. Koichava Oitzim Yadi Asaliyas achilah. It's my etzem. It's my lashon Oitzim Yadi Atzmacha. Otzmecha Oitzim Yadcha. Alti Rasha Bifnei Atzmacha Oitzim Yadcha Atzmacha. Alti Rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Because if a person is in the consciousness of atzmacha, which is oitzem yadcha, it's going to destroy your face. It's going to destroy your panim. You're not going to have a panim sechakos, have a mekabels called adam, a saver panim. You're not going to be able to live with yishav hadas, because the anxiety will kill a person like it does today. If a person doesn't have this emunah, it's terribly detrimental for a person's mental health and for a person's capacity to live with simcha sachayim.
To keep going.
Yeah. So that's what the Rebbe is telling us over here. Okay, now we introduce a whole new element. That's all just Ois Aleph. Okay, now we come into Ois Beis. What do you think? Everybody needs to hear this, or it's only for a niche group within Klal Yisrael? You think it's relevant to everybody, or it's just for a few like Breslovers, yeah.
It's tremendously important how one defines simcha, which is not happiness. How in here simcha is defined as, in a sense, being satisfied with one's effort.
Yishav hadas,
right?
Yeah.
But when one is outside of this pomim, on the other side, one thinks happiness is having a new car.
Right.
Right.
Right. We take it as a given that when we speak about simcha,
we are mushrash in the right definition.
Nachon. We're speaking about simcha mitas. Right. We're speaking about simcha mitas. Yesterday with my Hasbro boys, I showed them a clip that was going around. Like the entire the Jewish WhatsApp sphere of this golfer. What's his name again? Scotty Scheffler. Is he a Jew? So one of the chavras said he thinks he's a Yid, which would make a lot of sense. I don't know if Scheffler is a Jewish name. Maybe it's in Germany. I don't know. Something really amazing, actually. So he said I'm not going to play the clip now. I'll send it afterwards. I'm surprised that the chavra didn't see it already, but. Basically, he's apparently the number one golfer in the world. We were done, like, what kind of people follow golf? We decided it's like a certain age bracket, and then the other chavras said no, it's a certain wealth bracket. Anyway, kid said there's a certain kind of person that follows golf, and apparently he's number one in the world. Okay. So he's sitting there in a news conference, And somebody was asking, what does golf mean to you? The question is not in the clip, but you could basically see. He was asking basically, what will it mean for you to win the next? Like, he just won a big, huge tournament, and he said basically something to the effect of, like, we work and work and work and work, and we put all this effort in, and like we win a championship, and it's like awesome for 2 minutes. And he said it's great. Like I get to hug my family and celebrate, and then it's like, okay, what's for dinner tonight? And life goes on. And he's like, sometimes I really think, like, what's the point? Like, what is the point? This is not where I get fulfillment. And he has this great line. He's like, I'm not trying to like inspire the next generation of golfers. Like why? There's no point in this. So what's the Indian? Like, what's the meaning? He said, this is not where I find my meaning. And he said, I'm a husband and a father. And he said, if my golf would ever encroach on that, I'll quit this tomorrow, because this is not where it's at. So then one of the guys pulled up on his phone a TikTok of some basketball player who was asked, do you find, like, do you enjoy what you do? He's like, I get to make millions of dollars for running up and down a court with a ball. Like, yeah, I'm living a great life. So he said, stira, right? So I said, this is basketball and this is golf. No. So I told him, I said, it's not a stira. Scotty Scheffler is also having a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying? He's also living a great life. He's a multi-millionaire. He gets to do what he loves. The topic under consideration wasn't fun. He's having fun. I think he even says that explicitly in the clip. Fun he's having. And so the concept under discussion here is meaning, not fun. I would say joy, not pleasure. Right, so we take as a given here in Likutei that when we say mitzvah gedoliyas b'simcha tamid, doesn't mean that a person has dopamine pumping in their brain 24/7 on an IV drip and just big smile plastered on their face like a clown. That's not what we mean. Mitzvah. First of all, it's not even possible. It's not even right. It's not healthy. Now, people who interpret that literally, there's a certain kind of sect within Breslov Hasidus who appear to take this absolutely literally and find it mukhrach to just have a smile on their face the whole time. You could be sitting shiva, and it's unhealthy. It's not. It's weird. It's not. It's like it makes you uncomfortable. It's strange. It's not normal. It's not. That's not what Rebbe Nachman means. Rebbe Nachman doesn't mean that you have to have this externalized lower expression of joy. In Rebbe Nachman, first of all, I have another approach on the word tamid, that it doesn't mean constant, but it means consistent. Right, like the carbon tamid, Rashi says, wasn't constant. Rashi says, why was it called a carbon tamid? Because it was brought consistently, not constantly. So I think that Rebbe Nachman Bechlal just meant you need to be consistently happy, meaning happiness is your home base. Okay, but you could even on the word simcha, it's an internal sense of presence anchored in calm, in yishav das, in meaning, in lucidity. That's what it means for me. Okay, so that's what I believe Rebbe Nachman is saying here. Fun you'll have with lots of money. But simcha lo mukhrach liot. Okay. Now the Rebbe takes it one step deeper. V'das, says the Rebbe. And again, Rebbe Nachman. I saw it from Rebbe Shemaiah Morgenstern last week. They print out his Torahs and what's it called. He says, I showed this to you. He says, and he's right. He says, Likutei Moharan is toichacha. He says there are some Sfarim that are chizuk, there are some Sfarim, and people don't understand this, and it's counter, unless you learn Likutei Moharan, you associate Breslov with tremendous encouragement. He says, don't know. He says Likutei Moharan is toichacha, the whole thing.
Challenge.
Rebbe Nachman one, it's a challenge, right? Rebbe Nachman said to Reb Nosson one time, he said, Hashamata mimeni divrei musar? Have you ever heard me say divrei musar? And Reb Nosson was shocked. He said, the whole everything I hear from you is musar. So it's all guidance, different madrigas and advice how to reach them. Rebbe Nachman says, yes, of course it's all musar, but I don't say it b'lashon musar. If I would say it b'lashon musar, it would destroy you. That's what Rebbe Nachman told him. He said, if I would say, if it's a whole thing is musar because I'm trying to lift you up to gigantic madrigas, but if I would tell you straight, it would be too painful. So the Rebbe says, I mislabish it in stories and in concepts, and I don't say it direct. This is what the Rebbe said, but it's all divrei musar. So over here, the next line you're going to learn, again, Rebbe Nachman, he doesn't play games. When he's assessing the ills of our generation, he goes right to the root. He's not playing games. He says the thing, v'da. And that's why the Rebbe always, you never see the words nirali in Likutei Moharan. He doesn't speak from a place of suffix. He speaks from a place of absolute clarity. V'da. Other Svarim don't talk this way. I haven't seen another Sefer talk this way. He begins every piece, v'da. Just, you gotta know. Like, this is v'zeu klal, v'ikr. Like, this is it. There's no Indian of Amalek. Amalek is suffix. The Rebbe was in a place of mamish, machet timcha zecher Amalek. He was in a place of crystal clarity. So says the Rebbe v'da, shal yedei tikun bris kodesh hu nitzel b'panav d'sitra acher. That's it. Says, you know why the whole world is so deep in idol worship of money, which is our whole society? It's because we have major problems with tikkun habris. It's simple as it is. Simple as it is. If we would be mitukan in shmiras habris, then we would have the foundation upon which to build a healthy relationship with money. Yeah. Because the Rebbe who looks deeper, like we learned in Torah Yud Ches, I believe, which we've now made a reference to, and a number of other Torahs as well, beroiges rachim tiskar, right, to look beyond the surface and to see what's really going on. It turns out that actually people are not luhutim achar mamon. They're not really looking for money. Really, the same thing that's causing them to be stuck in taavas erva, right, a tikkun habris, which in and of itself is not pshat, like they have a terrible yitzhar. They're looking for something. They're looking for covenant. They're looking for connection. They're looking for relationship. They're looking to be valued. They're looking to be loved. That's what people are looking for. And that's, says the Rebbe, if you fix that, then you don't have this. Meaning the Rebbe sees this as second stage, Nebuch disease that first begins with taavas znos, and then it will flourish into taavas mamon because why? Because a person will not fulfill that void with taavas erva, and Mamela eventually it's like a progression. I see this. There are people who work on this, and then at a certain point they give up and they say, mamish. There are people who just give up. There are people who say, what's the point? And then they just give up, and they accept it as a given. They take off all filters on their phone. They don't even try. They say, forget it. This is just the mitzvahs, part of my lifestyle. Nothing I can do about it. I tried, what they consider to be enough. There may be strategies that they haven't explored. There may be therapies they haven't explored. Whatever. But at a certain point, they say enough. And so, okay, guess what? That's going to stop, even plastering over the void at some point too. So then, what they have to get into something else. They get into watches. They get into cars. They get into homes. They get into these things, and it's like the disease is progressing.
Spreading.
The disease is progressing. It's spreading. Yeah.
What was the Torah we learned with Adam and Chava and abusing relationships?
Yotes.
It was tied into
Yotes. Sure, it's taken up bris. Sure.
Meaning, money is also Adam and Chava because it's
Mamish. I believe we mentioned taavas mamon there as well, right? Let's go back 1 second.
Was it Torah? What was it?
No, right. We didn't mention taavas mamon. Yeah, it was Yotes. So it's taken a bris, of course.
But it's the same idea.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So the Rebbe wants us to go. That's what it means. Tikkun bris kodesh. Just to clarify, doesn't mean that a person, is white knuckling and doesn't, is like holding themselves back and counting days and has self control. That's not what tikkun habris means. Tikkun habris means going deeper to the core and figuring out how to rectify the concepts behind it. And it could be a lot of work. It could be a lot of painful work. I was sitting right here with somebody yesterday and speaking about Gehenna. Not that I was like speaking about Gehenna. We were discussing our perspectives on Gehenna, and a teaching from Rebbe Nachman in Zechus in Moharan, where the Rebbe was once standing in his home in Uman prior to his passing, as one does, prior to their passing. That's when they stand in their home. But he had moved to Uman about 3 months before he left the world. And he chose a home that was right next to the cemetery. And he without getting to the whole thing now about Uman and what that cemetery is and why it was so precious to him, it was from Xeris Tach V'Tat when about 10 to 15,000 Jews were slaughtered in 3 days. in the city of Uman. And the Rebbe said those souls need a tikkun. And so he went to Uman to die. This was Rebbe Nachman. Right? It's like he most people have like all different reasons for moving to a certain place. Like, so what brings you to town? Death. That's why he moved there, to die. He wanted to be buried in that cemetery. So it's very, very special. And that's why people have all kinds of opinions on Uman, but if you don't know the history and you don't know the theology, it's hard to have an opinion. You'll never understand it from an outsider's perspective. You have to go in, and then kula ha'ulai, maybe we can catch a glimpse. But Rebbe Nachman was standing there, and there was a funeral procession passing by, and everybody was screaming out and crying and wailing and moaning like a levaya. Rebbe Nachman told his Hasidim, he said, I want to let you know, no worries, he says, the mace is laughing at them. He says, they're crying and the mace is laughing. Because the mace is saying, what exactly are you crying? That I should have spent more time in this miserable world? That I should he says, the mace is saying, I'm free. Like, why? What are you, so, if only what? If only I would have had more tzaras? The mace is very happy. So this person says, so the person I was sitting with, we were learning this together, in a broader context of an article that's actually going to be published in a very Baruch Hashem public forum, which I'm very excited about. And I've never published this article anywhere, so I'll spread it around when it's published. But he said, how does the person know where he's going? Maybe he's going to a worse place than this room. He's going to Gehenna. So I told him, I think that Gehenna, and it's difficult, and it could be totally wrong. I guess one day we'll find out, But I, in my worldview, I believe that the pain of Gehenna is like the pain of a very difficult therapy session. Therapy is not fun. It can be very, very painful. It can force a person to confront and to open up and to reflect and to be honest and to feel very difficult emotions, especially certain kinds of more somatic therapies could be extraordinarily painful. I've had experience with something called psychodrama. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's not a normal part of human functionality, because you have to go and go on a retreat and spend a couple of days, which I did. Regular human beings who have not experienced things like that can't understand what humans are capable of. I've seen it. I've done it. I've witnessed it. You can't imagine how much pain people store. Until certain therapeutic modalities and experiences force it out of them. It's not fun. But when it's all over, you talk about joy. We talk about Yishuv Simcha Amitis. You're cleaned out. You're cleaned out. In my mind, that's what Gehenna is. It's a painful therapy session, which, by the way, might be connected to what Rebbe Nachman told us at the end of Torah Chof Beis, right on the top of the previous page, that Tsar habusha gadol ha'od yosem ha'onish Gehenna, right? Busha is the einish Gehenna, right? That feeling of shame, working through it, taking a look at it, really getting in touch with the vulnerability, that place inside that doesn't feel like it's enough, etc. That's the tsar of Gehenna. How did I get on the topic of Gehenna now?
Taavas mamon.
Yeah, I guess taxes. I don't remember, but yes, all of this. What a person's looking for. A person's looking for relationships. So Vedah says the Heilige Rebbe Zechus Yagen Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Amen is like the only one who just tells us the truth. For God's sake, literally. Shal Yedei Tikkun Bris Kodesh Hu Nitzal Mipanim D'Sitrach. How does that work? Says the Heilige Rebbe Al Yedei Dam Bris, because through the Dam Bris Nistakin Dam Nida. Dam Nida, we said on the previous page, is an in and of Avodah Zarah, right? Says the Gemara in Shabbos, Minayin Lavad Salidim Shematame Kenida. Says the Rebbe, Dam Nida is Avodah Zarah. How do you counteract Dam Nida? Dam Nida is the element of the death-oriented aspect of the feminine cycle, right? Of that process where there's the possibility for life, and then it passes, and that produces Dam, right? That's Dam Nida, is death, essentially. So how do you combat that? So then on the male spectrum, right, in that place, in that area, which is the midah of Yisod, in the Zachar, there's also Dam Bris. Dam bris is the tikkun for dam nida, right? You understand? It is the because what's the union of the bris? The bris is always able to function in a life-giving way. Only the woman, on her side of the spectrum, you can understand Kabbalistically, passes through an experience where that is not possible, right? I mean, if you think of it, in former, some would say good, some would say bad days, it depends, I guess. You know, Cherem Darbeit and Gershom was for a reason, but people were polygamous, right? Meaning the man was capable of the whole time, right? Reproducing. The woman, not. So, dam nida is rectified by dam bris. What does it say? Ve'erech mizvesech says b'damayich, va'omer lach b'damayich chayi. B'damayich chayi. Dam bris, unlike by nida, the dam bris is an union of misa because it's a heder achayin, it's a lack of life. But by the male, which is the concept of kutchabrichu, the mashpia as opposed to the mekabel, is chayim, right? B'damayich chayi. And that's the union of bris, which uncovers, right? It's megala, the etzem, the essence. So this says the Rebbe, again, it's like how many words is this? Al yedei dam bris nestakin dam nida. Boom. Who, like, nobody ever thought about that before. Dam. Same part of the body. Two different concepts. So says the Rebbe, so think of it. If dam nida al pi pnimius is a reference to avodas alilim, which is emblematized in taavas mamon, and dam bris is metakin that, so yeah, says the Rebbe, tikkun bris kodesh is metakin ad avodas alilim of taavas mamon. K'moshe kasav gam b'dam brisech. Al yedei bris, right? That's what that means. Gam b'dam brisech shilachti asirach mi bar. I took your prisoners out of the bar. Dam brisech, we can get out of the bar. Says the Rebbe, what's bar? Bar in the Zohar Kodesh is datchal. Bar is a reference to the spleen. What's the spleen? That's the part of the body that produces marashcher, the black bile. Be'itzava in toichalna. A reference to the sadness of a person who's stuck in taavas mamon. Right? And so therefore, gam b'dam brisech, when a person has taken a bris, shilachti hasarach midbar, then you're out of depression and sadness. Yes? Chisani, beautiful. Chisani. B'damai chayi. The chayim, the ar penei melech chayim. Ar penei melech chayim. Shilachti hasarach midbar. Want to get out of bar? We have to be masak in the bris. When we get out of bris, exactly. Yosef HaTzadik, who's the midah of bris, is gam b'dam brisech. It's unbelievable. Shilachti asirayich mibar. That's Yosef HaTzadik. Tzadik Yesod Olam. Yesod is the midah of bris. And so again, is this not a Torah speaking directly to our generation? What else is our culture dealing with, if not depression? Sexual maladaption and taavas mamon. Like this is and taavas achilah. Let's say like this. These four things.
And lack of connection.
Well, all of these things are novea from lack of connection. This is it. This is it. I think you have some chavra say no. This will be for some chavra who are like it. It's shaykh for, and then we'll have like a regular learning program for everyone else. It's like what everyone else. This is for everyone. This is for everyone. It is mukhrach for everyone now. Urgent. Mamish urgency, a state of emergency. I've declared a state of emergency. Emergency to kedusha, because emergency to klipa means something bad. But if you think of the word, what's the word emergency? It comes from the word emergence, right? Emergency just means there was an emergency, right? Meaning something emerged. Oh, a situation, a terrible thing. Emergency just means pitom, like a sudden thing happened. That's what we say. Emergency doesn't mean a bad thing per se. You could have an emergency to kedusha. Oh my gosh, a sudden hofa'ah of light. What an emergency! Like you understand, but a good kind of emergency. Vayhi'ar. Why? It was the greatest emergency ever. You know what the Adar Bamarim says on Vayhi'ar? Vayhi'ar, he says, is the Zohar Kodesh. Chayshech hapanei sahaim, right? Tayu v'vayu chayshech. He says the four galuyas. Says the Adar Bamarim. Vayomer Elikim Vayhi'ar. Hashem gave us the Zohar HaKadosh. That the Zohar means light. That's what's going to save us. Vayhi'ar. And I mean, I've experienced this in my life, and I think many of us have experienced this in ours. When this light comes in, it comes in like an emergency. But again, in a positive way. One second, it comes in as Vayhi'ar. it's almost like a flash of lightning. Now the painful thing about it, when this will finish, is that just like lightning, sometimes it can snake in and then it can pull back. That's called the Ratzav Shaif. But the beauty is that the Rebbe gives us the strength to be able to navigate that. And so the Rebbe gives us everything you need. He gives you the light, and he gives you the tools to handle the darkness. And then he says, Elu ve'elu, divrei likim chaim, Torah Yud Ches, Torah Yud Tes, is the Lashon HaKodesh, the communication of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We want to get out of the bar dat chol, the spleen, the marish chayra be'itzavin teichalna, gam bedam brisech. We have to be misak in the Indian of Tikkun Habris. And again, each person on their madrega. Tikkun Habris is not perfection. Tikkun Habris means you don't give up. You're in it, but more than that, you're in it. It's not simply a technical process of putting on this filter and doing that and the other thing. It means I wake up to the realization it's much deeper than that. This is a symptom. This is one of the big problems, is that it's being treated when it's treated, and it's discussed when it's discussed as if this is the issue. This is not the issue. Let's be very clear on this. They have like this pamphlet somebody put together, the battle of the generation. This is not the battle of the generation. The battle of the generation is a want for connection. That is the battle of the generation. This is another symptom among many, many, many symptoms of that. But if all we do is treat symptoms, and we never ever, because it's like a catch-22. We don't have access to panemius, which is why there's a lack of connection. But mamela, that causes us to diagnose a lack of connection in a very shallow way. So we don't look at the thing itself. We just look at the surface. We can plaster it over, but it'll never be healed. We need to give ourselves what we're actually looking for, which is das, which is enlightenment, which is awakening, which is a plethora of very healthy perspectives on self and on the world and on Hashem and on what it means to be human. And until we do that, no amount of strategizing around Tikkun Habris is going to work. It just won't. It just won't. What we need is das. That's it. And the tzaddikim are attempting to give us that. There are other more therapeutic, psychological, maybe secular models that can help to deliver that das. Many, many different ways open a person up to a lot of the messages that the tzaddikim are saying. When I read Eckhart Tolle's, The Power of Now, I went back to Kedushas Levi and I said, I didn't understand one word of this book. It was amazing. I had to go back to the Kedushas Levi, which I had already learned, the whole thing. And it took reading, some like essentially New Age literature, which is essentially, based on a lot of, Buddhist meditational principles. And then you go back and you say, oh, that's what he meant. That's when he spoke about the ayin, like it's in every other piece in British. How do you access that? What does it mean to be ayin? Oh, there are techniques, like you can rise above your breath. I think I sent you the Inin Ashkata from the Piyasetzner. Did I do that? Mm-hmm. Right? There are techniques. You can climb above. You can get out. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not going into this now. Hashem should bless us to continue doing what we're doing, and to accept ourselves, and to hold on to this tzaddik, because it's a messianic light. Shreinu Matov, Chalkeinu Manoim Berlein. Have a wonderful lifting Shabbos.
Yismach lei Imevakshei Hashem Yididayirayo Yididayirayo Yididayirayo